Good morning everyone, it's Peter with the Garden Family, and in this video I'm going to show you what happened to our garden over this last weekend with the remnants of Hurricane Helene coming in. We really didn't expect as much wind and damage as we had all the way up here in Ohio, but we had significant amount of wind, 60-mile-an-hour gusts, and about 6 inches of rainfall. And the combination did mean we lost some of the plants. Luckily, I think they're mostly just the annual plants, and most of the fruit trees did just fine. So I'm going to show you the damage that we've had. I'm also going to get the rest of the tomatoes harvested and processed today. I'll show you how the brassicas are doing. Just do a little bit of fall cleanup in the garden. So let's get to it. So as far as the damage that we had, one of the main things is our 3 tomato towers that we had. Those all toppled down. It's the end of September, so the expectation isn't that those would last more than a few weeks more anyway, so I'm not too bummed about that. But 2 of them actually fell on our peach trees, so let me show you how those are looking. So this tower right here, this is the biggest one, the super sweet 100 tomato tree that I was calling it. Was doing pretty well, still producing a lot of tomatoes. Like I said, not too sad that I have to take this plant out. But what happened is it actually fell directly on this peach tree right here. Luckily, I believe these poles kind of softened the blow because I didn't lose any major limbs, just some smaller ones. I did have a little bit more damage on one of the other peach trees over here, however. So this tower right here actually fell on this branch of this peach tree. It didn't break all the way through. I'm kind of debating whether to leave this branch or not. I'm hoping that it'll just recover, but my worry is long term, will that compromise the strength of this main scaffold branch? And then as the tree gets bigger and has fruit, will that cause a break in the branch? And it just looks like mostly the bark right on the top was damaged. I don't want to pull it down to show you and re-injure the tree. But what do you guys think? This tree was bent all the way down to the ground. Would you leave that scaffold branch? Let me know in the comments, any peach tree growers, whether you think it'd be better off if I just cut that or and then established a new scaffold in the coming years, or kept it for now. Now, as far as the other fruit trees, luckily I have all of my new fruit trees staked. That does prove pretty important. Most of the time, it's best to stake these, especially dwarf trees, right away. I'm just super glad I did. This apple tree is the one I just pruned in that recent video. But the rest of the fruit trees actually look like they're doing okay. That was my biggest concern. Obviously, a lot of the rest of the garden is annuals. We're gonna get our first frost in about a month anyway, so I'm not too concerned about the annuals. Luckily, the trees have done okay. I just wanted to pause and recognize that we are in such a better place than a lot of the people down south, Florida, North Carolina, Tennessee areas. So our prayers go out to everyone who has been more severely affected by the storm. So I'm not trying to complain. Given the circumstances, we're in a pretty good spot here, but I just wanted to show you what happened to our garden and what we're going to do about it. Now, as far as the amount of rain we've had, I think it's been somewhere around 5 or 6 inches. Let's see how much is in this wheelbarrow here. Just going to put this down right there. You can see we are at 6 inches there. Now this lip is just a little bit wider, so it's probably slightly less than 6 inches of rain. Not complaining about the rain. We've actually had a historic drought here and we've really needed it. It was just the 60-mile-an-hour winds that really did the damage. Let's go ahead and get to cleaning up. I'm gonna get the tomato towers all cleaned up right now. So as far as how these tomato towers work, it's 2 bent cattle panels They're 8 feet tall. So basically cut a cattle panel in half and then bend them at a 90 degrees. So there's 2 pieces. You can see a piece here and then a piece there. And then they're put together in a square and attached to a T-post. I've done this a few years, and one T-post has always worked as far as the support of it. Obviously that wasn't the case this time, so I may end up starting to put 2 T-posts rather than just the one. And then zip ties are just used to kind of hold them all together. The other option would be to get more robust zip ties, because the T-post is still there. I think the zip ties just failed. So if I can get this guy to move off of here, I can show you what these look like. So the other thing that's nice about these is at the end of the season, if you have a few of them, they can kind of just set inside of each other and then stack, and then we can bring them into the barn or even just put them off to the side out in the garden. So that's how those work. I also had those vertical supports. I don't usually do that, but in this case, this was getting so big, I kind of made a tree canopy up there. That worked really well. You can see we're still pretty prolific with the tomato harvest, and if it wasn't for the storm, we probably would have had a few more weeks of tomatoes here. Let's actually look a little closer at the tomato plant. It's pretty impressive. So this is the tomato plant here. You can see just how thick of a stalk this thing had. I called it my tomato tree. It really did feel like one. I don't think I'll be able to pull up all the roots, but let's kind of look and see what this root system looks like. Wow. Look at that. That is impressive. Really nice looking root system. It's too bad the hurricane ended this tomato tree's life a little early, but like I said, probably just a few more weeks till we get a frost anyway. So I'm gonna clean up the rest of these, and then next we are gonna get to just looking at the brassicas and see how those are doing. On a side note, at least this guy gets some good garden treats with all of the cherry tomatoes that fell down. This is our little 3-month-old Rhodesian Ridgeback. His name's Shango. You'll see him in a lot of our videos in the future. So over in the brassica beds, I think we're gonna be okay after the storm. Surprisingly, the Brussels sprouts stayed upright. This one's leaning a little bit, but I think we're gonna be okay with those. And then these are our storage cabbage. These are looking really good, still doing well. Swiss chard got a little flattened. And let's go look at the broccoli and cauliflower. As far as the broccoli and cauliflower, none of them got uprooted. You can see the ones more on the eastern side, the winds were coming east to west, are all kind of flopped over. But I think I'm just gonna leave them like this. I think they're gonna do okay. In fact, if we look right in here, you can see we have a decent sized broccoli head that's forming already. Next on the list to tackle, the straw bale paste tomatoes. These were already looking a little bit stressed from this drought that we were having before, now combined with that huge storm, 6 inches of rain and 60-mile-an-hour winds. These have kind of hit their last leg. A lot of these tomatoes are not going to be salvageable, but I think we're going to be surprised at what a big harvest we get. So I am going to get in here. I'm going to go ahead and pull all of these plants out, take out a lot of the bad tomatoes, but keep a lot of the good ones. So I'm partway through cleaning up this messy group of paste tomatoes, and I ultimately think that the way I trellis these did not work out, and I'm not going to do it again. So what I tried is I put each one in one of these crappy tomato cages, and normally I do not use these, especially not for indeterminate plants, the vining type. These are determinate, so they're the bush type. And my thought process with it was I'll use one for each plant, and then I'll zip tie all of them together. And so since they're all connected, that you'd get a lot better stability there. As you can tell, the plants just produced too much fruit. They were too heavy, and these all bent and did the normal thing that these crappy tomato cages do, which is break. So I am not gonna do this again next year. My plan next year is to do the determinate paste tomatoes again in the straw bales. The yield was amazing. And in fact, we're still getting quite a few, even though these plants look so ragged. We're gonna have a decent harvest right now. But the plan next year is to create a V with 2 cattle panels on each side. And then the plants will be planted down at the bottom of the V, and then a few more T-posts. I think the rigidity of the cattle panels just keep these plants from all flopping over. You can see a lot of fruit here, but most of it was lost just because of the all the fruit was on the ground, kind of wet, damp, things like that. Now I will say we've gotten a few 100 pounds off of these, so it's not like we lost our harvest, but I just think we can do a better job, and I'll do that next year, and I'll show you how I do it. All right, got those old plants out of there. We got about a wheelbarrow full of paste tomatoes that we'll process here. I also just wanted to show you what the straw bales look like after one season. So if you kind of look in here, you can just see how loose and soft this straw is. And it's mostly broken down. This is my go-to mulch for all of my beds at the end of the season. It's part of the reason I love it. Not only does it grow amazing tomatoes, but I can use it to add nutrients and everything to my beds at the end of the season. We grew 4 different kinds of paste tomatoes this year. Let me show you the difference between these varieties. I'll come up here so you can see a little closer. So the ones we grew, this was a plum regal. It's kind of a wider, pretty big paste tomato. These are all determinate. This one was a super sauce hybrid. These two were somewhat similar. I felt like the plum regal was just slightly bigger. And then we have Paisano, and the Paisano looks the most like a San Marzano tomato. The reason we didn't grow San Marzanos is because we only wanted to grow determinate plants. And then the last one was Aroma VF. This was really prolific, but the fruit was a lot smaller, so it was a little bit more annoying to harvest. As far as my favorites, my favorites were the Plum Regal and the Paisano. The Paisano probably was our most favorite. Part of it is just convenience. This thinner, longer tomato works a lot better to go through our electric tomato press that we use. It kind of fits in the hole there, whereas the Plum Regals are a little too wide for it, so you have to sort of smash them through. So those are the ones I grew. All were pretty good, but I would say the Plum Regal and the Paisano were our 2 favorite. Well, that's about all I have time for today. I got a lot of work still to do. One of the projects is this front entryway. I'm working on a stone entry with thyme that's gonna go between the cracks of these pavers. And then I'm just dry fitting this area here. This is gonna be an arbor that has this native honeysuckle that's gonna come over it. You'll probably see that next spring. So hopefully you guys are doing well in your place and didn't get hit too hard. Our thoughts and prayers are going out to everyone whose gardens are faring worse than ours, and hope you guys can bounce back and have a bountiful garden next spring. Happy gardening, everyone.